His attorney Eric Lerner. He represented Epstein victim Giuffre Arose. You, Eric. So what is the Arose family's reaction to Maxwell being transferred to a lower security facility in Texas?
Well, hi, Frederica, and thank you for having me today. The Arose family is outraged. Giuffre has been speaking to other survivors all week, and they can't understand why a convicted sex trafficker like Ghislaine Maxwell would be transferred to the lowest level of security in our, prison, lowest level security prison in our federal system, where prisoners could literally walk off the facility. And, they can't understand it, and they're very upset about it.
The family of Virginia Giuffre, who accused Jeffrey Epstein, of sexually abusing her as a teenager, released a statement expressing outrage after President Trump claimed Epstein stole Giuffre from Mar-a-Lago when she worked there. What do you make of Trump's comment zeroing in on that, as well as Giuffre's family reaction?
Well, I mean, I had the privilege of getting to know Virginia. She was there for Giuffre after Giuffre came forward on national television. And Virginia was a deeply compassionate person committed to fighting for justice for all survivors. And she inspired many in the community. And her passing is a tremendous loss to everyone who knew her. So I think the family has a right, to be outraged by language like that. It's at best, it's insensitive.
Mm-hmm. You said Giuffre Arose, your client, has spoken to other, victims of, this operation by Epstein and Maxwell. What is it they want revealed today, either by Ghislaine Maxwell, if she decides to, reveal any more, or what would they want revealed from this Epstein file? How would it be helpful to their plight?
Well, they want it revealed by the justice system releasing what they have. The justice system clearly has Jeffrey Epstein's emails, jeevacation@gmail.com. Google has it, and the justice system has it. Those emails would reveal a lot of what is being looked for. The Justice Department confiscated over 70 computers, hard drives, iPads, his cell phones. So release what they have. But getting names from Ghislaine is not worth, giving her a pardon or giving her an easier sentence. So Giuffre and the other victims she spoke to would like me to strongly advocate against any pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, and highlight that such a move would be seen as a slap in the face to all survivors. And Giuffre would like to invite the president to meet with survivors like her so he can understand the pain they've been through and why a pardon should not be granted under any circumstances.
Has that invitation been conveyed other than right now on the air? And if so, what's been the response?
No, this is the first time that invitation has been made.
Okay. And how are you hoping to make sure that the president receives this invitation, if he's not watching right now, but perhaps he is? And what do you think the adequate response will be? How will that meeting, what do you envision in that meeting potentially taking place?
Well, we hope to get the message out today. We hope that this will be reported on, and we hope that the president is watching. And, if it's not reported on or the president isn't watching today, we're going to keep talking about it, and we're going to keep speaking about it. And I believe he has a very smart group of people around him, and there is no reason, Giuffre is also from Queens, so they can relate to each other. And she's a New Yorker. She was recruited from a high school down the block from Epstein's home. She, none of her accusations involve anybody in Trump's circle. It's purely Epstein and Maxwell. And I think that they could talk one-on-one, and she could really explain to him face-to-face what she's been through and what this other survivors like her have been through, and how under no circumstances should a pardon to Ghislaine Maxwell be considered.
Is it your feeling, or is it Jennifer Arosa's feeling that moving Maxwell to the lower security facility is potentially a prelude to leniency in her sentence, even though the president has said, even as early as last night, no one's come to him about, clemency. He realizes he has the right to do so if he were to consider it, but I'm not really considering it right now. I mean, he kind of covered all the bases. But what do you suppose Jennifer Arose, or even you, would convey to the president if indeed you have an opportunity, along with other victims, to speak with the president?
Yes. So, I spoke to Jennifer last night, and her concern and the other survivors' concern is that it is a prelude to a pardon.
Yeah. And Julie, I mean, there was a local paper in Florida that reported that in the Florida prison where she was low security, she was teaching yoga and etiquette. This interview with Virginia Giuffre's family, again, the first time we've heard from them since the president's comments. I want to play what they said about Ghislaine Maxwell.
Our sister always told us that Maxwell was even worse than Epstein. We said it in the statement that she was a monster, but this is a woman who used her womanhood to prey on young girls, vulnerable young girls. And she wasn't a light participant. She's convicted of these crimes. And the thought of offering her leniency or a complete pardon, it makes us feel sick.
I don't want to put words in their mouth. I can't presuppose, but you would have to believe that people who have been categorically against any kind of leniency for Ghislaine Maxwell would not be happy about even a move to a facility that is slightly less restrictive.
I don't think we spent enough time in this whole Epstein Files episode thinking about the survivors. And let's just talk very briefly about what these survivors went through at the hands of Ghislaine Maxwell, according to what they testified to. She threatened to feed one to an alligator if she did not go along with whatever Epstein wanted. She took the passport of another to prevent her from leaving Epstein's island and kept her captive in order to have her do whatever Epstein wanted. She threatened the lives of several of these young girls, and they're girls, they're not women at this point, if they didn't do what Epstein and she wanted. This is a woman who, as the family of Virginia Giuffre said, used the fact that she was a woman and an older woman to ensnare young girls into basically sexual slavery. And the fact that we're even remotely discussing whether she has to get out of prison for that is just, it's miraculous to me that nobody's thinking about what these survivors went through at her hands. She was convicted by a jury of her peers. These are not mere allegations. She's a convicted felon, and she was convicted for trafficking underage girls and effectively into slavery, as I said, sexual slavery. And nobody's really thinking about that when they're talking about, well, she's moved to, a lesser facility. She's going to have more time to do yoga, whatever she's doing. Who's thinking about these girls and the trauma that they went through because Ghislaine Maxwell exposed them and snared them and effectively sold them into this? And we're not thinking about the fact that she did not do this on her own. There are men out there walking around today who had sex with these underage girls because Ghislaine Maxwell, because Ghislaine Maxwell effectively put them in harm's way. Those men need to be held accountable. We shouldn't be talking about giving her a pass. We should be talking about holding those men accountable because these survivors demand it.
Well, Carol, one other thing that we're starting to see, and this has particularly come from some of the hosts at Newsmax, is it seems sort of this groundwork being laid that Ghislaine Maxwell may in fact be a victim of sorts. Is that what the reporting, what we know from the trial, is that what it tells us, that Ghislaine Maxwell may have been a victim in this story?
Overwhelming evidence, all sorted through by FBI agents, extensive 302s, the interviews with witnesses, the actual events that occurred in her prosecution. The overwhelming evidence is that Ghislaine Maxwell helped groom women and gather them and secure them for Epstein to have sex with or to get various sexual services from. That she was essentially a conduit through which women were acquired, young women, sometimes women that were underage, to come to his home, his island, his poolside, his mansion in New York, his mansion in Palm Beach. And so it's possible there is some element in which she has been victimized by someone, but the overwhelming evidence and the reason that she's in prison now has to do with her victimizing others.
David, it seems like with this story and so many others going on right now, Democrats have an opportunity to sort of seize the narrative, to paint a clearer picture than they've been able to paint over the last few years, whether that's Epstein, or I know you've covered the Texas redistricting fight that's ongoing right now. How do you see the Democratic Party finding their footing and trying to figure out a fighting stance right now?
The Epstein story fell into their laps a little bit. I was talking to oversight Democrats as soon as Trump made those remarks at the cabinet meeting that he was annoyed the media kept asking, and they view this as a weakness for him, but not their main focus. Their main focus is what they see as, and they'll describe it these words, authoritarian moves by the president and by Republicans. So the Texas story is going to have repercussions for years in how Democrats campaign right now.
Guys, the folks that were hurt in all of this and who are being re-hurt by the decisions around Trump are speaking out. And others as well, of course. But, like, it's no coincidence that you've seen the families and the lawyers that represent the families and or the people directly affected. They're coming out and they're saying on behalf of these people who were young at the time, sometimes minors, but certainly what you would call like a young woman, a young girl, colloquially. If somebody is technically like 19 or whatnot, you would refer to, say, your 19-year-old granddaughter, oh, she's just a girl. She's, you know what I mean? Like, not derisively, but just, colloquially. And these people are speaking out. And they're saying, in some cases, we've seen allegations aimed directly at Trump, but they're in general saying, like, look, whether it was Donald and Giuffre traveled in similar circles and apparently they stole people from one another, apparently, somehow. You could just steal a person, right? Like, and certainly now you have a situation where Trump very clearly, from the common perspective, right? This is the common narrative, which I tend to agree with, although it's still technically, I guess, a theory, that Trump wants to use Maxwell as a vector to kind of assert his innocence, and then they have this meeting with his former personal lawyer, now a government lawyer, but it used to be not that long ago his personal lawyer, has a meeting that we don't really know the details of with Maxwell, and then all of a sudden, hours later in the grand scheme of things, she's moved to a nicer prison, which is for like white-collar criminals, and I'm guessing is a much better day-to-day experience than she's been getting. Of course, the people that have been hurt by this and those that represent them and those that love them are speaking out and confronting them. And so Donald has hurt these people again. And I want to make one point very clear. This is very, very important. One of the arguments the GOP disingenuously has been making is we can't release info to protect the innocent. The innocent are saying, you can protect us while taking on the sickos, maybe including Donald himself.